Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be, and whether you're watching live or archived. And welcome to episode number 74 of the Nautel Transmission Talk Tuesday webinar series. I'm going to preface this one by saying this is going to be henceforth known as the COVID episode. We had a little hurricane up here last week. Could have been a lot worse in this part of the world. A couple of 100 miles east of here, they did get it a lot worse. So we'll count our blessings there. But older boy brought a good case of COVID home from school last week, infected the whole family, and that seems to be affecting just about everything, including our computers for what that's worth. Our special guest today is going to be Charlie Drillen. Hopefully Charlie will make it. Charlie's having a computer issue as we speak. And the cool thing is we're going to be talking about our Bangor facility where Charlie's the plant manager. So the really cool thing is if he doesn't make it, I'll make stuff up, and that could be fun too. As always, we will hit the mandatory housekeeping stuff before we get rolling. If you have any questions, comments, criticisms, concerns, feel free to type them into the Enter Question for Staff box in your control panel. Hit the send button, it'll pop up on my screen. If Charlie doesn't make it, I'm going to rely on y'all to make this as interactive as we really can. We'll open it up, making a conversation, so you can hit the little hand raising icon. We'll open your mic, and we'll literally make it a conversation. Elaine says she's going to go easy on me. I've had a hard week, and yeah, it was one of those. Friday night I tested positive for COVID, started feeling really bad about the time the hurricane started. It was an interesting weekend, let's put it that way. But as always, it could have been worse. What do they say? That doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I see we've got Brian Irwin's our Halifax plant manager in the audience, so I may call on Brian to provide a little bit of input here and there if Charlie doesn't make it in on the phone. So we'll keep an eye on that and just sort of see where things go. We did have some advanced questions, and I'm going to put those up on the screen as we always do. I say always, almost always. But the advanced questions were pretty, I guess, pretty easy, the softballs. I'm not going to hit them in any specific question. The one about the new GV on the factory floor, so I did take a look at that ship schedule, and that particular transmitter is due to ship in December, so it's probably just in the process of being kitted, which means it's random parts scattered around stores and fab. Give it about another month and you should see it all kitted together in a little crate. And we've got some pictures. We'll show some shots of how that stuff goes. What product lines are made in Bangor? I am going to unmute Brian here, who hopefully is not too terribly caught by surprise, because I don't think he was expecting this. Brian, are you available and able to hear me?
Yeah, Jeff, can you hear me?
Yeah, very good. So what do we build in Maine versus Canada? I know we build a lot of the navigational stuff down there, but what else?
Yeah, as far as catching the operations group off guard, there's nothing in the past 18 months that haven't caught us off guard. So sorry about the technical difficulties with Charlie. I know he was looking forward to joining the call or joining the webinar today. From a built-in Maine versus Canada perspective, we spent a lot of time over the last 8 years building in redundancy in both facilities. So other than specific power levels on the AM side, we have the ability to build all GV or all FM and AM products in both facilities, and certainly take advantage of that for capacity reasons in both plants. Charlie's staff is well versed in all of the FM products, with the exception of low power FM, which is built in Canada. And on the AM side, building everything from the J1000 up to NX100s, and then everything above the 100s get built in Canada.
Cool. Now, see, Charlie, I do see you made it in on the phone. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Look at that. I hear you and see you. You're doing wonderfully.
It only took, what's that, 40 minutes to get it to work.
Now, what do we got for a phone? Are you using an Apple or a Samsung?
Just on my PC, actually.
Oh, there you go. So we got you going. Good deal.
Excellent.
So, all right. So, a little late start, but hit me with a little bit of the history of the Bangor plant. Now, I've got a picture here that shows what it looks like today, but this isn't the original facility down there, is it?
No, the original facility was actually initiated on the Bangor International Airport grounds. There was a building, I forget the exact address, but in the early mid 70s, initially started as a beacon development center. And then ran for, I'm not sure if it was 1 or 2 years, I'm not sure the exact history of that. Then moved to this location in the, I think 1975. And then from there, has been growing in this footprint ever since then.
Oh, very cool. How many folks do you have down there now?
We have 25 people in the facility.
Okay, and I know it's varied over the years, plus or minus 10 or 15, give or take. And some of the folks down there predate me. And
Yeah, it's amazing. We actually have a number of folks that have over 40 years of tenure with the company. It's quite amazing, actually.
yeah, and that's I think one of the cool things about this place. I mean, today is 2 weeks shy of my 32nd anniversary, and I still consider myself the new kid.
Right.
And and you've been there. I mean, you're not any fresh out of school. You've been there about 13 years now.
Yeah, about 13 years.
Cool. And you're born and bred from Maine, right? I said
Yeah,
Maniac when we were talking before.
that's right. That's right. I've grown up in the Bangor area, so I've been here all my life. Prior to working for Nautel, so initially I graduated from the University of Maine. I have a degree in engineering. I worked in paper industry. I worked for a tier one automotive supplier for 9 years prior to coming to Nautel, and been here for 13 years now. And it goes by in the blink of an eye.
You have got that right. Well, I told somebody once, I said, some days it feels like I just started last week. Other days it feels like they built the place around me.
Yeah, it's
And
amazing.
it can vary very much from one day to the next. Now, as Brian was saying, you guys, I mean, and you mentioned you originally started doing the navigational gear. If I recall the history, and this was 15 years before I started, but the history was that we originally started to build FAA contracts, correct, for navigational
Yes,
gear?
I believe so. That's correct. So initially it was all beacon and then morphed from there into AM and then eventually into the FM product line. And now we do obviously FM, AM, and beacon products.
And I may or may not have crawled through some of the historical archives in the directory. This was when we first got our ISO 9000 certification. And for the folks that don't know, and I tell people, I said, the big thing about ISO, the Industry Standards Organization, it doesn't necessarily mean that you build a quality product, although of course we certainly strive for that. What it means is that you build one very consistently, that we've got specific policies and protocols to follow for everything and materials and all that, so that I should be able to design something here, ship it down to you, and what comes out on your end is exactly the same as what we do.
Absolutely. It's really a standard. The standards is basically sets for that we ensure we have a process. And the process here at our facility is the same as the process at the Hackett's Cove facility. So we have a standard process which we follow, which ensures that we have a system in place which will enable us to ensure we have a product to deliver to the customer that meets their expectations at the end of the day.
Right. And I mean, that's ultimately what it comes down to. And I see quite a few folks in the audience that have gotten gear from both places. And I know for a fact that most people, well, and that's really what brought this up. I was in the middle of a discussion on an engineering group in Facebook, and somebody did not realize that we actually built transmitters in the United States. And yeah, y'all have been there. You're 3 years shy of your 50th anniversary now, give or take.
Yeah, it's been, we build a lot of product. We're very efficient. We have a lot of seniority, a lot of tenure in the facility. So everybody is really skilled at what they do. They care deeply about the product that they produce, and the company cares about them, and you can tell it manifests itself in having people with 40+ years of experience. So it really it's worked out well, and it will continue to work out well in the future.
Well, and the cool thing about it is it's family enough that you know, we can have the conversation behind the scenes when the computer's not working about the antique technology we give our management, so the people that have to work for a living can actually get things done.
Right.
But so, and I mean, technology wise, and I've got a few photos up on the screen from the fab shop down there, but it's just one of those things that you guys have got pretty much the latest and greatest CNC stuff for everything. And I mean, I remember when the True Punch went in, that was a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a significant investment, a capital investment for the location, and that gives us the flexibility to be able to produce the same product with the same designs and the same templates that we use. We call them flat patterns between both locations. So we can basically have a set of drawings and programming that can move seamlessly between the Hackett's Cove facility and the Bangor facility. So if we want to transition products to balance and level load capacity, if the customer has specific requirements that has to be made in a specific location, then we can handle those types of things as well. So you know, that piece of equipment that we're looking at on the screen right there is really the heart of the fabrication process for our facility. All of our products that we produce, or 99% of the products we produce, the aluminum metal is punched on that machine, and then that flows out from there to the different processes which build the chassis and the components into which we produce the final product.
Yeah, and it's really kind of cool. And Elaine's asked in the questions, if you source the metal locally, where's your aluminum come from?
It comes from southern Maine. We have a vendor that brings it up for us twice a week, and they're very consistent. There's a number of vendors that we use, and we use this one in particular just due to the quality of the material they provide to us. So it's, you know, that's how much we require or demand the quality of the product that goes into it. We'll source the vendors that provide the best quality, even if there's a detriment to price.
Yeah, and that's something that's worth noting. I mean, I've had a lot of folks come to me and say, you know, why are you charging this much for this part, whatever this part may be, when I can get it on eBay for half of that? And a good portion of that price is not just for the part itself, it's the way we source it, so that we know we're not getting a counterfeit from somewhere unethical, you know, that we're getting something decent quality that is up to our standards. Or
Absolutely.
as William puts, free range organic metal in this case.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. And so Curtis asked, and this is something that I'm probably as qualified to answer as anybody: total time from customer calling with a full transmitter need to shipping finished product. And I mean, you and I both know, and you and I have this conversation almost daily. It's very much a moving target, especially these days with part shortages, etc.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, right now, you know, with lead times, they vary, and like you said, day to day, depending on what's going on in the world and the country that we may be sourcing product from, whatever it may be, it does have an impact, and it flows through, and it really is a little bit of a moving target for us. But we do the absolute best we can. We leave no stone unturned to try to shorten that lead time. To really try to achieve the best lead time in the industry.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, Curtis, the answer right now, it will vary a little bit by model number, but if you worked with an average of 16 weeks, you would be pretty close. And that's improved about a month from 3-4 weeks ago. So,
yeah, and the interesting, not the analogy, but the interesting thing is we recently had to replace a loading dock in the facility. And the loading dock, basically, it's a transition between the dock to the truck plate itself. And that it's basically a big piece of metal with a big airbag that floats it up and down. It has a compressor. It's not a significantly high technology product, but that was a 11-month lead time for us to get that product into this facility, which just blew me away. When I know customers aren't necessarily satisfied with even the 16 weeks lead time, but I look at that and I think the technology that we have into our products and the time it took to get this dock plate to us was 11 months. I look back at that and say we're doing a lot of things right to be able to even get to the 16 weeks, and that's that's important.
And especially when you look, and I was working with logistics on this for a report a couple of months ago, and the average lead time from our suppliers for components is anywhere from 50 to 75 weeks.
Right.
So right off the bat, that means a lot of extra stock and a lot of inventory control and a lot of logistics management. And so I'll cuss at you when I want it faster and you're not putting it out faster, but I totally understand why.
Yeah.
So as I said, we were talking about when the big punch went in, it was a really big deal, and big enough that you got a group photo for the whole deal and had an actual ribbon cutting ceremony, wasn't there?
We do. We had the punch. We actually installed at that time a new press brake as well. So we really went through and did some significant investment and upgrades into the facility and the capacity that allows us to maximize the efficiency of the products that we produce. It also allows the throughput to increase. We have better controls over the quality of the product, the better tolerance to control. And it really just, it's a big investment, and it was a big shot in the arm for the local area and the plant itself to have that type of belief or investment in the facility itself. It ensures, it proves our viability, it proves the quality that we produce, and it proves that it makes sense to have a manufacturing facility in Bangor, Maine.
Now, and that kind of segues into something kind of interesting. So, I mean, it's a pretty common industry, and I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball here. But industry-wise, I mean, it's pretty common. Like Quincy, Illinois is sort of transmitter central. Gates Air has been based there for years. Broadcast Electronics is based there. We've had a presence in the area for quite a while. But Maine itself, you've got Dielectric, you've got Shively, you've got Nautel. What is it about Maine that makes it such a great place for producing RF?
Yeah, I got to believe it's the people. I have to believe it's the base of people that are committed workers that have a stable workforce, and believe in the product and the places that they work, and they put all their efforts into it. And I think that's kind of the little bit of the main. You move around the country and you hear people that move to other places, and you hear about the Maine work ethic, and I really think there is something to that. And so I think that kind of bodes well and enhances the ability for us to produce the products that we produce.
And I mean, I know geographically there's not a lot of difference between there and here. I think we're a couple of 100 miles east, but about the same latitude. And yeah, it's just the rugged coastal, so it kind of creates that kind of spirit. Now,
Sure.
This picture, I saw this picture when you sent it up, and I said, I think I know what it is, but I don't work down in assembly very much. So tell me a story.
Well, this is our plating process. So all of the sheet metal that we produce has a coating applied to it. So those are just the tanks. It's an integral part of the process for us. So a number of years ago, probably 3, maybe 4 years ago now, we transitioned from hexavalent chromium, which provided almost a gold color luster on the product. And the reason we produce that material or plate the material are two. Number one, it provides a good grounding surface. Number two, it provides a good adhesion surface for paint. So those are two critical things for the design of the product. Well, hexavalent chromium is a known carcinogen, which obviously is not necessarily a good thing, bad for workers, bad for the environment. So we made a conscious effort to transition away from hex chrome a number of years ago, now probably 3 or 4 years ago, and now I've moved to a different product line that's basically it's much more environmentally friendly. It's worker friendly. so it's a win-win situation. It's just as good just as good performance from an adhesion standpoint, paint adhesion, grounding capacity. So it's just kind of more of the part of that process, that fundamental process of our plating shop and our fabrication shop. It's that integral step along the way. So it's just a kind of a snapshot into it. People may not, because it's clear now, so the aluminum doesn't necessarily look like it has a plating or a coating on it, but it actually does.
And that's one of those really cool notes too. Not so much with the change from hexchrome, but in general, it's worth noting too that the way our processes are set up, pretty much anybody is able to suggest an improvement. And I know up in Halifax, and I'm pretty sure Bangor as well, a lot of the procedural improvements that we go through are stuff that are suggested by the folks that have been doing the job, saying, this is a dumb way to do it. We could do it a lot more efficiently if we did this, so to speak. And if you seen any examples of that down there that come to mind? And again, I'm kind of throwing you curveballs here because I don't think we've discussed this before.
Oh, we continuously evolve the process and look for ways to improve. Just every, it could be as a success example, or just a small continuous improvement project where you look to improve the work area around you. Or it could be something from transitioning from there was a suggestion that came out of the Bangor facility here a number of years ago as well about using a water-based paint versus a different type of paint. So, the water-based paint that we use now has just as good a quality, and it's more environmentally friendly. We don't have the chemicals to deal with from the standpoint of that. So, that originated from an employee suggestion that we look at an alternate paint source. So, there are numerous examples we can cite, but those are some pretty significant ones right off the top.
Right, and the water-based paint too, another good point about that is now it enables us to we can ship a paint chip that can be easily color matched in the field, or we can ship touch-up pins, which we could never do before because
absolutely,
oil-based qualifies as hazardous goods.
Right.
William's asking if we practice lean in Maine as well as Hackett's Cove, and we do insofar as so a lot of people misunderstand lean as being not ordering anything until you absolutely need it, whereas really it's about reducing waste. Is that correct?
It is.
I know, Brian, and you speak to this better than I do.
Yeah, it really is. Lean is more of an approach to how you do business. You can look at it in multiple ways. Well, lean can be as simple as ensuring that your desktop, everything has a place. You keep your pens in this location, that's organized, it's neat, you basically have a repetition that you can apply to it so that you ensure that your process is minimizing waste. I mean, and that's really the fundamental idea of lean, is to minimize waste wherever it may be. And those can be from the most simple thing, your closet or the storage area that you may keep office supplies in. Ensuring that when somebody comes off at that supply closet, that they can find what they need in 2 seconds and not stand there for 10 minutes hunting, sorting, trying to go through the closet to figure out where the whiteout is or where the paper clips are. Something as simple as that. So, when we talk about lean, absolutely, we do everything we do is trying to become better, to try to be more organized, to try to be more thoughtful in the processes that we have, and to try to improve and enhance the ability for us to produce the product at the end of the day.
Yeah. Now, you may have dated yourself a little bit when you said whiteout, but
well, I'm sorry. It's a hot topic around here because some people still like to use it, so we still stock that here. So if you ever need any, Jeff, we've got it on hand for you.
I know where to go. Jerry had asked what the second coating material, what's the stuff we've switched to for, I say iriditing, but I think it's a plating process now.
It's called it's called TechnoClean is the cleaning product, and the base product itself, which for some reason is escaping me right now. I'm drawing a blank on it. I apologize. The name of the product itself.
It'll just pop to you later.
It will.
Daryl had asked, isn't this called just
Oxalin? Oh, thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. Oxalin Oxalin plating, correct.
So Daryl had asked, isn't this called just in time? And just in time and lean are two totally different things, because just in time does involve only ordering the parts at a specific point in the process where you know you're going to need them. Lean, because it's focused on minimizing waste, may require you, like in a situation where we've got really long lead times, to stockpile parts so that you do have them when you need them. And so it's really a different approach, if I'm not mistaken. Is that accurate?
It really is. I mean, if you look at just in time, a lot of you will typically find that more in automotive type facilities where they have production lines where they don't want a batch of, let's say, fenders. Or in my case, I used to work, I have some training as a Six Sigma black belt, and I used to work as a continuous improvement manager in a manufacturing facility, where you want to ensure that you have the product that you need when you're building it, not before, not after. And you want to minimize that. So when you say just in time, the dock, your truck may be delivering your fenders or your ball joints or steering stabilizers or axles, whatever it may be, to the dock an hour before you need to use it in the assembly process. So, with lead times being, like you said, Jeff, 50 plus weeks in some cases on products, we don't have that luxury that we can kind of dictate the flow of product through our plant, like a Ford, GM, Chrysler, etc. So it's really a different approach where lean is overall, imagine lean is basically how do I minimize waste? And waste comes in many, many different forms. It can be walking waste, handling waste. When I say handling, you could be trying to reduce how many times you have to touch a document or put your hands on a piece of metal to move it. So it comes in many forms.
No, I mean, it could be, and by the same token, you could call that, waiting waste. If the truck had a flat tire on the way to your dock.
Right, muda. So basically, it's basically it's an expression, muda. It's waste.
Yeah, exactly. See, I knew there'd be a word for it. So this one, we're looking at an NV20, so NV20 LT, an FM transmitter, and I mean,
Sure.
you're showing everything from riveting the side panel to assembly to final test.
Yeah, these are just photos of the process, the process along the way. So on the left side, you see it's a panel in our final assembly. I'm sorry, in our fabrication shop where they're installing hardware into the side panels. And center photos in the assembly process where our gentleman John is building up the transmitter itself, and on the right hand side is the actual transmitter in our test room with our test bay hooked up to our test loads.
Yeah, and okay, so Daryl mentions talking about the just-in-time. He grew up in Western Electric, AT&T, and Lucent, so they're pretty well drilled in the just-in-time their theory. And yeah, as we said, it's not the same as lean. Although they can be complementary, they are not necessarily identical philosophy.
Correct.
So that's kind of cool to know. Now, and then on this side, we're looking at AM. I see two 10s and a 50 in these pictures.
Yeah, just some different stuff. So our final assembly there is in process right there. Let's say either a 5 or a 10 that's in process, and there's a 50 over that's going through actual final inspection. We call it pre-pack inspection. So we have a couple different inspection many stages of inspection, but we have one final inspection that be prior to actually the product actually being packaged, and that's what you see on the right-hand side there.
And that'd be a cool, just kind of give me a real short walkthrough of the process. Because I mean, obviously I'm the sales guys now, and I've been the service guy. So I've been involved on both ends of the process, but never really in the middle. So I'll get an order from a customer and I'll hand it over to Jen, and she'll go through Configurator and create a bunch of work orders. And that will end up going to the folks on the floor. So what happens then?
So talking in terms of build wise, so obviously the products are built and we have various stages of inspection that they go through. So we have different assembly areas. So if it's a product that's built in what we call our light assembly area, and then it goes through a staged inspection process that then flows into those products are then consumed in our final assembly area. And then after the final assembly takes place, the operator will then verify everything as to what they believe is correct. We will then do another inspection prior to going to our final test area. So the quality group will go through and ensure that we have all of the customer parts, bits and bobs that they've ordered, that everything meets our quality requirements prior to it going into our test room, because we don't want to find any quality areas in test at that point. We want to ensure that once it lands in test, that we're all at that time we're loading software, we're vetting the product to ensure the product is then in fact fully functional and ready for the customer. So then once the production validation, which is really our final test area, then goes through the final inspection process, which will then go through and make sure that everything is verified again, that we have all of the parts, do they the correct ones, or do we have all of everything the customer has ordered, do we have all the manuals, do we have everything that the requirement is, are we meeting all of our internal ISO requirements prior to it going to packing? And that's really kind of the process flow that we use to ensure that that works correctly.
I'm going to throw a little side note in. Anybody happen to be watching Charlie's camera display and saw somebody sneaking in the back door? That's Amanda from customer service, and we're going to drag her in here in a couple of seconds. So, hi, Amanda.
She might not be able to hear you. I'll have to switch from my headphones to my speakers. Hopefully that I don't have any more technical issues than that, but I'm making no guarantees that I'm not an IT expert.
Hey, worst case scenario, we'll take your headphones off, dump them on her, and then we'll have to sanitize everything after.
That's right.
I said that out loud. So we were talking before about some of the other stuff you do there, and so these are a couple of beacon ATUs. And for the folks that don't know non-directional beacons, so an NDB is basically an AM transmitter that broadcasts between 190 and 520 kilohertz. Typically lower power, rare to see them go above about a kilowatt of continuous of CW. Usually they're broadcasting a Morse code ident for whether it's airport runway or more these days, it's an offshore oil rig than anything. But the cool thing about them is they run in electrically short, really inefficient antennas that will change with a couple of raindrops. So they're continuously tuned, and we build the automatic tuning units for that. So tell me a little bit about the beacon gear, because I remember when I started in 1990, they said that, I mean, nav beacons then were probably 10% or so of our core business. And they figured then that it'd be a dead business in 5 years. And here we are 30 years later, and they still make up a good chunk of business.
They do, and you know, so all of the beacon products come from this facility here, and have since I've worked here, and I think probably all of the 30. Since 1975, and we've been building them. What you see here on the screen here, they're kind of reversed in flow here. On the right-hand side is the assembly process. So that's the final assembly process where our assembler John is installing the coil deck and cable harness into the actual body of the ATU. And on the left-hand side, one of our test technicians, Randy, is going through and verifying the transmitter is got the right capacitors, is it tuned to the right frequency, and then verifying the product is meeting our requirements prior to going off to packing.
Right. And for the folks that want to hear the geeky part of it, so basically the coils have moving slugs in them. Some of them have, I'm going to say it wrong, but varactors, rotating coils. Yeah, I'm going to get it wrong. Anyway, so we can alternate both the L and the C, or the X and the Z, depending on whether you're looking at impedance or resistance or reactance. And they're totally driven with stepper motors, so we're continually monitoring forward and reflected power, both with respect to phase and current, and we can adjust the tuning dynamically to keep the match as good as possible. Again, remembering that we're running into, in some cases, a whip antenna or a piece of wire strung around a helipad, which has an efficiency of maybe 2 or 3% on a really good day. Elaine asks, for oil rig use, do you do anything special to keep components from corroding? And there's a question. I know sometimes we can formal coat this. Is that still the case for the beacons?
We do have some conformal coating, but particularly for outdoor platforms installations, we have IP66 cabinets, which they're installed into. So they're watertight cabinets they can install when they're exterior enclosures like that.
Right, and we can also provide the transmitter itself in an IP66 cabinet with the weatherproof conduit entries.
Correct.
Very cool. All right. Well, at this point, let's hand the headphones over to Amanda for a sec, or switch to speaker, whichever
All right,
happens.
I'm gonna try to switch to speaker. I make no guarantees about it here. Let's give it a try though. Go ahead, Jeff. Give it a try.
Okay. Can you hear me, Amanda? All right. We can't hear her. So what do you got for microphone?
How about now?
Okay, good. Amanda, can you say, there you are. So now Amanda and I, for what it's worth, when I started at Nautel, Amanda, you were working in assembly.
I was.
And so anybody who has ordered a part from Bangor has probably spoken to Amanda, which is why we dragged her out here. John Welton's on the chat and he says hi, by the way. John's Amanda's boss, so now we got to talk nice. But, you know, for the record, it's on being recorded. I guess we hit to anyway. So you go back quite a few years. Told you I dug through the archives.
Jeff, good thing you're not here.
So until I caught COVID, I was going to be doing this live from Bangor, and this slide was not part of the slide deck. Once I was safely 700 miles away, I decided I could get away with putting it in.
That was really wise.
So Halloween, this was 20 some odd years ago, more time than we care to admit to.
Yes.
Phil Bean was our service manager down in Bangor at the time, and Amanda dressed as Phil for Halloween one year.
I think I did pretty good.
Yeah. And William thinks it's a Jeff Welton costume, but no, you're much better looking me than I would ever be. I think that's definitely a Phil, mainly because I've never worn a tie. So anyway, you've been with us. Yeah. How long you been here now?
It'll be 33 years in January.
Yeah. So you beat me by about 3 months, and you were in production for quite a few years for support.
I worked on the line for 4 years.
And
then
support
customer service.
Yeah. And so, like I said, if you order a part or you need to send something in, odds are Amanda is the person that's going to lay hands on it. Talk nice to Amanda. We like Amanda. And we promise not to put too many embarrassing pictures of Amanda up on the screen.
Wow. Yep.
So this goes back just a little bit too. Back when we were all a whole lot younger, we used to do quite a few intercompany picnics and ball games. And we may have to start those up again someday soon, but you're not a bad ball player either.
I have better qualities, I guess.
But a bunch of years ago, it's about a 10-year stretch where we ran back and forth every year. And Elaine wants to know if you started working with us when you were like 3 years old.
19, Elaine.
Yeah.
Hey, sir. You can send Elaine some money after the fact.
That's it. We'll send her the bribery. Anyway, so I needed to bring Amanda in because I knew you'd be in the office and say everybody's talked to you. So anything you want to say to the folks that they could do to make your job easier?
No, not really. I mean, I love dealing with our customers. I really do. Always have.
There you go. Anything you want to say to your boss so he can make your job easier, seeing as we know he's listening. We got him on the fence here now. Just remember, it's being recorded.
You're already in trouble with one picture.
All right. Well, thanks very much, Amanda. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure. Thanks for the reminiscing of the pictures.
I promise not to do it again too often.
Okay. Have fun.
See ya.
Bye.
So Charlie, before we wrap up too far, is there anything else that you think we should cover that we missed?
Jeff, I will default to you. You are the expert at this. I'm sure we have missed some things, but I think at the end of the day, I think the product that we produce and provide from both here and the Hackascope facility, are one of the best products in the world. And I think that, the end result, the customers see, that they can see the quality and the pride that people have in the craftsmanship of the product that we produce. And I think that at the end, that's certainly has to be a consideration when they're making decisions on sourcing on products from us. And I think that, when you see a company that has taken care of employees that still work there for 40+ years, really kind of says something about the culture of the company itself. If they take care of their employees like that, they certainly will take care of their customers. And I think that shows with our customer service support, you know, and it really, it's more of it's a mentality of how do we want to operate as a business. And I think that really shows through.
Yeah, and so Curtis has asked a question here, does the Maine facility have an engineering development presence? And so I'm going to start the answer and let you finish it, but the short answer is no. However, they do have the feedback through our JIRA reporting system to work with engineering to solve any situations that do arise. Is that about right?
Right. I mean, essentially, we don't necessarily have a hands-on team here, but in the modern technology that we live in, excluding my little faux pas that I had earlier with the PC not working correctly, everything is very interactive for us. So obviously, between we have a JIRA, we have an electronic communication system which we can communicate openly and quickly with our engineering team to be able to solve problems, troubleshoot issues, get support when and where we need it. So it's a fairly seamless process that we've developed, obviously, you know, in the past nearly 50 years of business here. So it works well. So while sometimes it's nice to be able to have somebody right there and be able to have a solution maybe 2 seconds quicker, we're very efficient in being able to solve problems remotely.
And one of the good things is too that realistically, although you don't think of it because of course it's a whole separate country, but it's a 7-hour drive from Hackett's Cove to Bangor. And so, I mean, I could
slow down. Come on.
You know, what's the word here? I'm trying, it's being recorded. I'm being nice.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yes, it's a 7-hour drive.
Now, Jeff Wilson in our sales department had asked if you've got an estimate on what percentage of transmitters that we make are made in Bangor. So, and that's a fair question. I mean, for U.S. customers, I'd say the majority of our transmitters are built down there, correct?
No, if you're talking as a percentage of based on total volume, probably not, just because of the VS series. Obviously, that really skews the
Right.
number, because all the VS obviously is made in Hackett's Cove. I honestly had, maybe Brian, if you're still in line, maybe you know that number off the top of your head. I don't know what that number is, honestly. It's really, I don't know that we've never necessarily considered it.
I think in general terms, it fluctuates, but it's in the, you know, it'd be anywhere in the 2/3 to 1/3 range, depending on product mix. But, you know, some months it's, you know, 40% of our revenue coming out of Bangor and 60% out of Hackett's Cove. But really it varies depending on, you know, what is getting built specifically on product mix. But like we kicked the meeting off with, we put a lot of work into building redundancies across both facilities. We do have, you know, Charlie's got capability to build pretty much any product that's built in Hackett's Cove, you know, with the exceptions that we mentioned earlier, low power, NX, the VS series, and, you know, Charlie's group is focused on the beacons. But other than that, AM and FM wise, Charlie's team can do pretty much anything that the Hackett's Cove facility can do.
Very cool. Let's see, so one other note here, had to drop out, was pulled away, didn't know if this was asked. Are there plans for Nautel to investigate water-cooled transmitters for a product? So I can answer that one. That's probably more my bailiwick than any. We do look at it on a regular basis. It all does come down to, it's a sizable investment, and is there a return on it based on quantity you think you'd sell? More and more, it's starting to skew a little, but up till now, it's been a really hard sell to justify that you would sell enough to make it worthwhile. Let's see, Jerry asked if the H and the serial number indicate Hackett's, and that is correct. If you've got one of our older transmitters, its serial number either starts with B for Bangor or H for Hackett's Cove. The newer ones, the serial numbers are differentiated too, isn't that correct?
There, yeah, okay, I can remember off the top of my head.
With one in Halifax.
1 for Halifax, 2 for Bangor, 2 for Bangor.
Yeah.
So there you go. So, you know, there is like a little code. Let's see, been trying to get Nautel to start manufacturing high power 100 to 1,000 watt S-band amplifiers for LEO satellite service. Purchased a lot of them without the Nautel quality. Think there's still a good opportunity. Okay, well, we will, so Ray, I will throw that one over to the product council because we actually do have a team of people whose job it is to figure out what we build next. And certainly I'll be throwing the suggestion from Joseph about liquid cooled over there. All right, on that note, folks, this webinar, as with all of our webinars, will be archived. We've got the Waves newsletter, the YouTube channel. YouTube channel is cool because customer service puts some pretty good little resources, tidbits up there. There's pressure on John to get his team to create more of those little how-to guides. You know, things like unboxing the VS is an example. I hear a lot of complaints about the rack sides, but there's a cool little video on how to put them together. Makes life a whole lot easier. So just little things like that, how to delete a preset or something on the AUI. So that's kind of a cool resource if you hit the Nautel channel on YouTube. Online info, various places. Then, of course, there's a Facebook group for literally everything. John Welton says there's a VX unboxing webinar or video being recorded as we speak. So, you know, just again, check the YouTube channel. If there's a task, a specific task that you're looking to accomplish, that is a really great resource for that. And by all means, you can always pick up the phone, call me, call support. Happy to help anytime. Call Amanda. She'll usually tell her you saw that picture. She'll call me a name and then we'll have some fun with it. On that note, I do want to thank Amanda for graciously putting up with that.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it. And Charlie, thank you very much. And Brian in the background, thank you for stepping in with the technical difficulties. We'll be talking to the IT department about getting Charlie a slightly newer computer. So what'd you have to fire up for this one, Charlie? A 386 or a 486?
Oh, I had to, it was some stone and a chisel.
Jeff, I was going to turn my camera on, but I figured it would blow up the whole thing. So,
hey, look, I bought a shiny new camera, and I'm surprised it hasn't collapsed on me yet. But I'm sure the time is coming. So, on that note, folks, we're going to finish a couple of minutes early, give you a few minutes of your day back. But I really appreciate everybody's time. I want to thank you all for attending, and we'll see you. Let's see. Quick note while I'm thinking about it, assuming I have recovered and I'm back on the road again next week like I'm supposed to be, October is going to be a wash. So we're taking a month off from the TTT. We will see you again in November, and look for our social media about middle next month. You get an idea what we're looking at for a schedule for November. On that note, folks, thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye now.
Thanks, Sam.
Ciao.